Quick reality check: if you ever thought family drama was just about who ate the last slice of pizza, buckle up, because you probably won't survive this one. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and the local time in the comments. Who knows? Someone nearby might be reading along, too. Now, picture this: a polished oak boardroom high above Manhattan, champagne flutes glinting under designer lighting, and graphs scrolling across a massive digital wall. Executives in tailored suits murmured about quarterly profits, blissfully unaware that within the next 2 minutes, their entire empire would collapse harder than a house of cards in a hurricane. Then it came sharp, cutting through the air like a siren. "Dad, they're planning to kill you." A 10-year-old black girl with braids flying burst through the glass doors, sneakers squeaking on marble like a halftime buzzer. Anna Kingsley, small in size, but a storm in presence, pointed her trembling finger across the table. "Run, Dad, run." Jonathan Kingsley, 65, titan of energy tech, turned in slow motion. His whiskey glass froze midair, the amber liquid catching light as if even gravity was shocked. Historians still argue whether moments like these, when truth detonates in a room full of lies, are what define entire generations. Jonathan whispered, "Anna?" His voice was softer than the man who once bulldozed governments for contracts. She didn't wait. She accused them one by one. Graham Wells, his assistant of 2 decades, palms sweaty, suddenly looked like a kid caught cheating on an exam. Delaney spilled his chair in panic, and Miss Rhodes nearly sprinted to the door. Then came the piece de resistance, the glass. Anna pointed to the bourbon at Jonathan's right hand. "Smell it. That's not oak and caramel, it's almonds. Crushed lorazepam. I found the wrapper in the restroom." She slapped the foil down like a royal flush in Vegas. When Graham refused to drink it, silence spread heavier than lead. That's when Jonathan realized this wasn't childish paranoia. This was survival. Anna wasn't bluffing, either. She told him to check the teddy bear on his desk, the gift he had brushed off as sweet and simple. Hidden under its bow tie was a pinhole camera, wired to a secret cloud. As the IT team scrambled, Jonathan's empire played back its own confession. Graham's voice crackled through the speakers. "The old man won't make it past next quarter. A plan so cold it could freeze fire." Chairs scraped. Pearls clutched. Heart stopped. Jonathan's chest tightened, not just from betrayal, but from shame. He hadn't listened to the one voice that mattered most. The little girl no one noticed had seen everything. And when he finally whispered, "Seal this room. Call the police," it wasn't just authority speaking. It was a father, realizing his daughter had just saved his life. The boardroom silence didn't last long. Within minutes, uniformed NYPD officers were filing in, separating executives like misbehaving school kids about to get detention. Flashbulbs popped from reporters downstairs, whispers crawling through Manhattan like fire ants on a sugar spill. Jonathan sat slumped in his chair, his empire cracked, while Anna stood steady, her backpack still hanging from one shoulder like a warrior's shield. You could almost hear the historians of the future scribbling. And this was the night a 10-year-old forced a trillion-dollar corporation to face itself. Detective Marissa Doyle, all salt and pepper curls and a gaze sharp enough to cut glass, leaned over to Jonathan. "Your daughter's a key witness," she said, then turned to Anna. "How'd you pull this off?" Anna shrugged. "I read. A lot. Wired the bear into backup power myself. Cameras don't blink when grown-ups do." The room went so still you could hear a tie pin drop. Scholars still debate whether children see more because they're ignored or because they're fearless enough to stare at the truth. But Anna's proof wasn't just tech wizardry. She remembered the way Graham's eyes lingered on Jonathan's chair when it was empty, like he was measuring it for himself. She recalled Miss Rhodes correcting Jonathan in front of guests. Her voice sharpened with hidden venom. And Delaney kept asking Anna if her father had taken his heart meds, long before anyone else knew they existed. She wrote it all down in a notebook, each detail a breadcrumb. With help from Joe, the janitor who was once NYPD, she pieced together a puzzle even the FBI hadn't spotted. Still, the storm was only beginning. Later that night, back in the penthouse, Jonathan looked at Anna across a bowl of soup she'd cooked: chicken, vegetables, rosemary, normal food on a night that was anything but normal. "Do you regret it?" he asked. His voice cracked. She didn't blink. "No, I need you alive." He nearly broke then, because truth spoken so calmly by a child hit harder than any poison. And just when you thought the story was done, cue the creepy twist. A package arrived at their door. No return address. Inside, a carved black queen chess piece, smooth and ominous. Beneath it, a note: "Careful whom you trust next." Now, whether the sender was a shadow puppet master or just someone playing a terrifying game, Historians still argue. But Jonathan's jaw tightened. And Anna? She placed the queen on her nightstand. Not as a threat, but as a reminder. The board wasn't cleared. It was just being set. From that night forward, their lives weren't about board meetings and profits. They were about survival. And when federal agent Gerald Pace stepped into Kingsley Tower days later, muttering about racketeering, sabotage, and international bidders drooling over Jonathan's nanocell battery tech, one thing became clear. This wasn't just corporate betrayal. This was global. And at the center of it all, a child with braids and a notebook was already 2 moves ahead. Courtrooms rarely feel cinematic, but this one buzzed like a movie set. Every camera in the country seemed trained on Anna as she sat in the front row, legs too short to touch the ground, fingers curled tight around 2 chess pieces, the Black Queen and the White Knight. Jonathan sat beside her, bruised but steady, his presence more weathered oak than polished steel. When the judge's gavel dropped, you could almost hear history inhale. Wallace Drake, the ex-NSA spy master turned consultant, testified first. His voice was flat, clinical, as he laid out how shadow contracts were signed in smoke-filled rooms, how energy patents became bargaining chips for foreign powers, and how political strings had been pulled like marionettes at a carnival. People gasped. Some scribbled notes. Others sat frozen as though their ears refused to believe what they heard. Next came Gerald Pace from the DOJ and Alicia Ford from the Bureau of Energy Security, explaining with calm precision how boardroom conspiracies had escalated into national security threats. Scholars still argue whether this trial marked the true beginning of corporate accountability in America, or just another brief flare of outrage. Then came Anna's turn. She stood at the witness stand, the chess pieces clutched in her small hands. When they gave me these pieces, she said softly, I realized they thought this was a game, but I don't play to win. I play so no one else has to lose. The courtroom went silent. Even the reporters stopped typing. Jonathan's eyes shimmered with something he hadn't felt in decades, unfiltered pride. The verdict thundered through the courthouse, guilty on all counts. Conspiracy, fraud, attempted murder, every charge stuck. The world outside roared in response. Headlines screamed, Child Warrior topples Empire of Greed. Protesters carried signs with Anna's face. And for once, the chatter wasn't about markets or stockholders. It was about ethics, integrity, truth. Back in their penthouse, Anna lined up the chess pieces on the dining table. Knight, queen, king, bishop, rook. She didn't arrange them as an army, but as a circle, not power stacked in hierarchy, but unity bound in trust. She looked up at her father and whispered, Do you think the game's over? He squeezed her hand. No, but from now on, we play fair. And here's where the story softens. Later that evening, they walked through a quiet park. Children laughed on swings. Old couples shuffled arm in arm, and the city hummed without menace. Anna leaned against Jonathan's shoulder, her voice drowsy but sure. Promise me, Dad, no more shadows. He kissed her head. Always. In that moment, the world didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a home. And so, with the roar of the courtroom behind them and the headlines fading into tomorrow's noise, father and daughter returned to something quieter. The world had demanded spectacle poison uncovered. Plots revealed. Global conspiracies dragged into the light, but the ending was not about victory parades or flashing cameras. It was about the calm that followed when fear no longer held its grip. Jonathan brewed tea instead of coffee, the steam curling gently like a sigh of relief. Anna sat cross-legged on the couch, her hoodie sleeves dangling over her hands, doodling absent-minded floor plans in the margin of a notebook that had once held evidence strong enough to topple an empire. She no longer needed to write in red ink or circle names. The weight had lifted. What remained was possibility. They spoke little that night. Sometimes words clutter moments best left pure. Instead, they let silence stretch, not heavy as before, but light, tender, and healing. Outside, the city carried on horns, sirens, footsteps on wet pavement, but from the balcony, it sounded almost like a lullaby. Before bed, Anna arranged the chess pieces one last time, forming not a battlefield, but a constellation. Knight, queen, king, rook, bishop, symbols of struggle, now turned to guardians of balance. She traced them gently with her fingertip, then turned to Jonathan with a smile too soft for headlines. It's not about checkmate anymore, she whispered. It's about keeping the board safe. And with that, she pulled her blanket close, the hum of the city fading into a softer rhythm. Jonathan watched her eyes close, felt his own shoulders ease for the first time in weeks, and allowed the quiet truth to settle. The story ends not with a bang, but with peace.